Imagine a city in the United States slowly turning purple. Not because of a festival, not because of a major sporting event, and certainly not because of an ordinary celebration, but because of one name powerful enough to bring millions of people from different places toward the same destination: BTS. And now, the question is no longer whether BTS is coming to Baltimore, because the moment ARMY have been waiting for is finally here. On August 10th and 11th, 2026, BTS is scheduled to take the stage at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland, bringing their highly anticipated Arirang World Tour to another major U.S. city. But there is something that makes this moment feel much bigger than just another stop on a world tour. Among the 7 members preparing to stand in front of thousands of ARMY, there is one member whose emotional connection with fans has always been incredibly powerful: Jimin. So what will happen when Jimin once again looks out from the stage and sees an entire stadium filled with ARMY in Baltimore? Could one tiny moment become the next major topic among fans around the world? Could an unexpected interaction between the members turn into another viral sensation? And why does BTS moving from Foxborough to Baltimore feel like more than simply traveling from one city to another? Stay with us until the end, because today we are going deeper into the Baltimore chapter of Arirang, the atmosphere building around M&T Bank Stadium, the emotional meaning this moment could have for ARMY, and why Jimin may once again become one of the most closely watched members when the lights go down. Welcome back to Jikook Lover, your place for BTS news, Jimin and Jungkook updates, emotional moments, and stories surrounding the Arirang World Tour. Before we continue, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because the Arirang journey is far from over, and one unexpected moment can become tomorrow's biggest BTS story. Now let's turn our attention to Baltimore. Just days earlier, the spotlight was on the New York area and then Foxborough. BTS continued their North American tour after performing at MetLife Stadium, before moving on to Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. And now, the journey is bringing them to Baltimore. For ARMY, however, moving from one stadium to another is never simply about dates on a calendar. Every city has its own story. Every stadium has its own energy. And every time the 7 members of BTS stand together on one stage, there is an emotional atmosphere that is difficult to put into words. That feeling becomes even more powerful when you realize just how long many fans have been waiting to see BTS return to the scale of a major stadium tour. M&T Bank Stadium is not a small venue. It is widely known as the home of the Baltimore Ravens, and is one of the most recognizable sports venues in the city. But for 2 nights, the atmosphere will be completely different. The football field will become a massive concert stage. The stadium lights will transform. Thousands of phones will rise into the air. And instead of hearing the roar of a football crowd, Baltimore will hear something ARMY around the world already know very well: the sound of thousands of voices calling out one name: BTS. That is what makes the Baltimore chapter so fascinating. The city is not simply preparing for a concert. It is preparing for an event. Local coverage has already highlighted BTS-related activities and gatherings around Baltimore as fans prepare for the 2-night event. And that tells us something important. The excitement is not limited to the stadium itself. It is spreading throughout the city. But what is actually happening in Baltimore? The answer is bigger than a concert. It is about community. Imagine a fan who may have waited years for the chance to see BTS in person. Someone traveling from another state. Someone taking a long journey with family. Someone arriving alone with nothing more than a light stick, a phone, and one simple dream: to finally see 7 people who have been part of their life for years. And this is where the emotional side of Arirang begins to become much more powerful. For some longtime ARMY, seeing BTS return to the stadium stage is not simply entertainment. It can feel like witnessing the beginning of another chapter after an incredibly long journey. And when Jimin's name enters the conversation, that emotion can become even stronger. Jimin has a unique ability to create an emotional connection through performance. Not only through his vocals or choreography, but through his facial expressions, his eyes, his smile, and the way he communicates with the audience. Sometimes, just a few seconds of eye contact from the stage can feel deeply personal to someone standing in the crowd. That is part of the magic of a BTS concert. And that is exactly why Baltimore could become such an emotional night. But there is something else that makes this even more interesting. BTS is scheduled to perform in Baltimore for 2 consecutive nights. August 10th. Then August 11th. 2 nights. 1 city. 1 enormous stage. And thousands upon thousands of ARMY waiting to experience the next chapter of Arirang. The anticipation surrounding Baltimore has already been building within the ARMY community. Fans have been discussing everything from the concert experience to the atmosphere surrounding the stadium, and the possibility of unforgettable moments once BTS finally appears on stage. Of course, details can change, and unofficial fan information should always be checked against official announcements. But one thing is impossible to ignore. The excitement is real. ARMY are already asking questions. What will the opening of the Baltimore concert feel like? Which song will create the most emotional reaction? How will Jimin react when he sees the stadium filled with ARMY? And perhaps the biggest question of all, could Baltimore become one of the most memorable stops of the entire Arirang tour? That question becomes even more interesting when we look at what has happened during previous shows. The scale of the earlier North American performances has already demonstrated just how powerful the atmosphere around this tour can become. Massive crowds, huge production, thousands of lights, and 7 members standing together once again. That means Baltimore is not starting from zero. The Arirang energy has already been building. From one city to another, that energy continues to grow. And when BTS arrives in Baltimore, local ARMY will not be the only ones watching. Fans from surrounding areas are expected to have their eyes on the city as well. Baltimore is positioned within the broader Washington, D.C. and East Coast region, making it an important gathering point for fans traveling from nearby areas. In other words, these 2 nights at M&T Bank Stadium could become much more than a local event. They could become a meeting point for ARMY from different parts of the United States. And when thousands of people who share the same love for BTS come together in one stadium, something extraordinary can happen. They may not know each other. They may speak different languages. They may come from completely different backgrounds. But when the lights go down and the first sound comes through the stadium speakers, everything changes. They become one voice, one energy, one sea of purple light. And at the center of it all, 7 silhouettes will appear. RM, Jin, SUGA, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook. For Jimin in particular, moments like this can carry a very special meaning for fans. We should never claim that Jimin will have a specific reaction before he actually says or does it. But we can understand why ARMY are so eager to watch his expressions and interactions on stage. Because sometimes, the most unforgettable moments are not the moments anyone planned. It could be nothing more than a smile, a wave, a simple greeting, a few words directed toward ARMY. And sometimes, those tiny moments become the ones fans remember forever. Then someone captures the moment on a phone. The video is uploaded. ARMY begin talking about it. Social media spreads it. And suddenly, a few seconds from a stadium in Baltimore can become a global conversation. That is the fascinating cycle surrounding BTS concerts. One moment happens inside the stadium. Someone records it. The clip spreads. Fans react. And before anyone realizes what happened, a moment that lasted only seconds has reached millions of people around the world. That is why every Arirang concert carries the possibility of a surprise. Not necessarily a huge surprise. Sometimes the simplest moments become the most meaningful. And Baltimore may give ARMY one of those moments. There is another reason why this particular stop feels so interesting. After Baltimore, BTS's journey continues. The tour moves forward to other major cities across North America. So Baltimore is not the final destination. It is another chapter in a much larger journey. But sometimes, the most memorable moments happen in the middle of a journey. BTS already has momentum. ARMY are already emotionally invested. And every night that follows has the potential to create another story. Now imagine Jimin standing on that stage tonight, looking out into the crowd. Thousands of purple lights shining back at him. Maybe there is an ARMY who waited years for that exact moment. Maybe there is a mother attending with her daughter. Maybe there is a longtime fan who traveled hundreds of miles just to be there. And maybe, for someone in that stadium, this concert is not simply a concert. Maybe it is a gift to themselves after getting through difficult years. That is where music becomes incredibly powerful. We often think of a concert as 2 or 3 hours of entertainment. But for the person experiencing it, the memory can last for decades. They may forget what they were doing on an ordinary day in August 2026. But they may never forget the night they stood inside M&T Bank Stadium, held a light stick, watched BTS appear in front of them, and heard thousands of people shouting the same name, BTS. And perhaps that is what Arirang truly represents. Not simply the name of a tour, not simply the name of an album, but a journey. A journey bringing BTS and ARMY together again across different parts of the world. And now, that journey has brought them to Baltimore. But wait. There is one question that is much more interesting than simply asking when BTS will perform. What will happen when all 7 members finally step onto the Baltimore stage? Will Jimin create another emotional moment that leaves ARMY speechless? Will an unexpected interaction between the members produce another viral moment? Or could the Baltimore ARMY themselves create the biggest surprise of the night? We don't know yet. And perhaps that uncertainty is exactly what makes tonight so special. Because a concert can never be completely predicted. We can know the date. We can know the location. We can know who will perform. But we can never know which moment will remain in someone's heart forever. And tonight, Baltimore is waiting for that answer. So to every ARMY traveling toward M&T Bank Stadium, everyone already in Baltimore, and every fan watching from thousands of miles away, one thing is certain. The Arirang journey is not over. In fact, another chapter is just beginning. And when the stadium lights finally go dark, when the crowd suddenly erupts into one enormous roar, and when 7 silhouettes begin to appear on the stage, perhaps that will be the moment we finally understand why these 2 nights in Baltimore have been so highly anticipated. But the Baltimore story does not end here. Because there is still another side of this story we need to explore. The energy of Baltimore ARMY. The emotional journey BTS has been taking from one stadium to another. Jimin's potential interactions with fans. The chemistry between the members. And the moments that could potentially send social media into another frenzy once the concert begins.